Maya Rodriguez walked through the marble hallways of Westfield Academy, her worn sneakers making soft squeaking sounds against the polished floors. The same floors her father would mop and polish later that night, when the school was empty and quiet. She kept her eyes down, focusing on her backpack straps as she made her way to first period chemistry. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the expensive artwork that lined the walls. Everything about this place screamed money, from the crystal chandeliers hanging in the main lobby, to the leather-bound books in the library that probably cost more than her family's monthly grocery budget. Maya had been attending Westfield Academy for 3 months now, and she still felt like she was walking through a museum where she didn't belong. She earned her spot here through pure academic talent. Her grades at Lincoln Public High had been perfect, and when the opportunity for a scholarship to Westfield came up, her counselor practically forced her to apply. Maya remembered that day clearly. She had been sitting in the guidance office staring at the application form when Mrs. Chen looked at her seriously and said, "Maya, you're too smart for this place. You need to be challenged." Now walking past groups of students discussing their weekend trips to the Hamptons and their parents' latest business deals, Maya wondered if being challenged was worth feeling like an outsider every single day. She clutched her secondhand textbooks tighter and quickened her pace. The chemistry lab was already buzzing with conversation when she arrived. Maya took her usual seat in the back corner, the one spot where she could observe without being noticed. She pulled out her notebook and started reviewing her homework, hoping to blend into the background like she always did. "Did you see Kelly's new car?" whispered Ashley, a blonde girl who sat 2 rows ahead. Her dad bought her a BMW for her 16th birthday. "I'm so jealous." "That's nothing," replied her friend Brittany. "My parents are taking me to Paris next weekend just because I passed my French exam. They said it's educational." Maya tried to tune out their conversation, but it was impossible. These were the same girls who had designer handbags that cost more than what her father made in a month. She thought about her own upcoming birthday next week. Her parents had been saving up to buy her a used laptop for college applications. They were so proud of themselves for managing to put aside $300 over the past 6 months. The teacher, Mr. Peterson, walked in carrying a stack of graded tests. Maya straightened up in her seat. Chemistry was her strongest subject, and she had studied for hours for this exam. When he placed her paper face down on her desk, she could see the red A+ through the thin paper. A small smile crossed her face as she carefully tucked the test into her folder. "Nice work, Rodriguez," Mr. Peterson said quietly as he passed her desk. "Your understanding of molecular structures is impressive." Maya felt a warm glow of pride, but it was quickly dampened when she noticed Ashley and Brittany whispering and looking in her direction. She caught fragments of their conversation. "Janitor's daughter, scholarship kid, doesn't even belong here." The bell rang, and Maya quickly gathered her things. She had learned to be the first one out of every classroom to avoid the awkward moments when everyone else made plans she couldn't afford to join. As she walked down the hallway, she passed the trophy case that displayed photos of Westfield's most successful alumni. Lawyers, doctors, business executives, politicians, all of them had one thing in common. They came from families with money and connections. Maya paused for a moment at one particular photo. It showed Dr. Amanda Foster, class of 1995, who had gone on to become a neurosurgeon. The plaque mentioned that she had started the scholarship program that allowed students like Maya to attend Westfield. Maya wondered if Dr. Foster had felt this out of place when she was a student. Here, her next class was Advanced Literature with Mrs. Patterson. Maya loved this class because it was one place where her background actually gave her an advantage. While her classmates struggled to understand stories about hardship and social inequality, Maya lived those themes every day. When they read The Outsiders last month, she was the only student who truly understood what it meant to be judged based on where you came from. She took her seat in the middle of the classroom this time, trying to be less invisible. Maya had realized that hiding in the back corner only made her seem more different. Mrs. Patterson was discussing their upcoming assignment on character analysis when the door opened and Tyler Blackwood walked in late. Tyler was everything. Maya was not at this school. His family owned half the commercial real estate in the city and everyone knew it. He had perfectly styled brown hair, wore clothes that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe, and walked with the confidence of someone who had never doubted their place in the world. He was also, unfortunately, incredibly smart and charming when he wanted to be. "Sorry I'm late, Mrs. Patterson," Tyler said with a smile that had probably gotten him out of trouble 1,000 times before. "Family meeting about the new shopping center project." Mrs. Patterson just nodded and gestured to his seat. Maya noticed how the teacher's entire demeanor changed around students like Tyler. There was a respect there, or maybe it was just fear of upsetting the families who donated generously to the school. Tyler's crew of friends, Jackson, Alex, and Ryan, were already in their seats near the front of the classroom. They were the kind of boys who had been handed everything in life and expected the world to continue revolving around them. Maya had observed them carefully over the past few months. They weren't necessarily mean, but they had a casual cruelty that came from never having to consider other people's feelings. As Tyler settled into his seat, his eyes swept across the room and landed on Maya. For just a moment, their gazes met. She quickly looked away, but not before she saw something in his expression that made her stomach turn. It wasn't anger or disgust. It was curiosity, like she was an interesting specimen he had just noticed for the first time. Maya spent the rest of the class period trying to focus on Mrs. Patterson's lecture about symbolism in literature, but she could feel Tyler's occasional glances in her direction. She told herself she was being paranoid, but 3 months of being invisible had taught her to recognize when someone was really seeing her. After class, as students filed out into the hallway, Maya overheard Tyler talking to his friends near the doorway. "Have you guys ever really looked at the scholarship kids?" he was saying. "I mean, really looked at them? They're like anthropological studies," Jackson laughed. "What do you mean?" "I mean, look at Rodriguez over there," Tyler continued, not bothering to lower his voice. "Her dad literally mops these floors. She's walking around in clothes from Target, carrying books held together with tape, trying to pretend she belongs here. It's almost fascinating from a sociological perspective." Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she kept walking. She had learned not to react to comments like these. Getting upset would only give them more ammunition and confirm their belief that she was different, that she didn't belong. But as she walked toward her locker, something inside her began to shift. For months she had accepted their casual dismissal of her worth. She had let them make her feel small and invisible. What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that every evening after her father finished his shift at the school, Maya went to her Uncle Roberto's gym downtown. Uncle Roberto had opened Rodriguez Family Martial Arts 5 years ago in a converted warehouse. It wasn't fancy like the private gyms these kids probably belonged to. The equipment was secondhand, the walls needed paint, and the air conditioning barely worked in the summer. But it was where Maya had learned discipline, respect, and most importantly, that strength came from within, not from your family's bank account. She had started training when she was 8 years old, right after her cousin Luis had been jumped by older kids in their neighborhood. Uncle Roberto said he wanted the family to be able to protect themselves and each other. For Maya, the training had become something more. It was the one place where she felt truly confident, where her worth wasn't measured by her clothes or her address. As Maya reached her locker and fumbled with the combination, she thought about what Tyler had said. Anthropological study, like she was some kind of exotic creature to be observed and analyzed. She grabbed her lunch bag and headed toward the cafeteria, her jaw set with determination. What Tyler and his friends didn't realize was that they were about to become the subjects of their own anthropological study. Maya was done being invisible, and she was definitely done being anyone's science experiment. The only question now was how long it would take for them to figure out that the quiet girl from the wrong side of town was far more dangerous than any of them could imagine. Maya sat in her usual corner of the cafeteria, unwrapping the peanut butter sandwich her mother had packed that morning. Around her, the dining hall buzzed with the sounds of expensive lunch orders and animated conversations about spring break plans. She had brought her calculus homework to work on during lunch, partly because she genuinely enjoyed math, but mostly because it gave her something to focus on besides the social dynamics playing out around her. At the popular table near the window, as Tyler and his crew were holding court as usual, Maya had learned to read the rhythm of their conversations over the past few months. They would start with casual topics like sports or weekend parties, then gradually shift toward more pointed discussions about other students. It was like watching predators decide which prey looked the most vulnerable. Today felt different, though. Maya noticed Tyler glancing in her direction more frequently than usual, and his friends seemed to be following his gaze. She tried to concentrate on her derivative problems, but something in the air felt charged, like the moments before a thunderstorm. You know what I find really interesting? Tyler's voice carried across the cafeteria, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. How some people try so hard to fit in somewhere they clearly don't belong. Maya's pencil stopped moving across her notebook. She didn't look up, but every muscle in her body tensed. Jackson picked up the thread immediately. Yeah, it's like watching someone try to speak a language they learned from a textbook. Technically correct, but you can tell it's not natural. Ryan laughed. That's actually a perfect analogy. Like they know all the right words, but they're missing the cultural context. Maya felt her breathing slow down, a response her Uncle Roberto had trained into her during their meditation sessions at the gym. When emotions threaten to overwhelm you, he always said, control your breath first. Everything else follows. She was proud of herself for maintaining her composure until Tyler stood up from his table and started walking in her direction. Her heart rate spiked, but she forced herself to keep working on her math problems. Maybe he was just going to throw away his trash. Maybe this wasn't about her at all. But Tyler stopped directly in front of her table, casting a shadow across her notebook. His friends had followed him, forming a loose semicircle around her corner spot. The conversations at nearby tables died down as other students sensed something happening. Maya Rodriguez, Tyler said, pronouncing her name slowly, like he was tasting each syllable. The academic superstar. The scholarship success story. Maya finally looked up from her homework. Tyler was smiling, but it wasn't a friendly expression. It was the kind of smile adults use when they're about to tell children something unpleasant for their own good. Can I help you with something? Maya asked quietly, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. Actually, yes, Tyler replied, pulling out his phone. I dropped this under my table over there and it slid pretty far back. I was wondering if you could help me get it. Maya glanced toward Tyler's table, then back at his phone, which was clearly in his hand. Your phone is right there. Tyler's smile widened. Oh, this one? No, this is my backup phone. The one under the table is my main device. Much more expensive. I'd hate to scratch it trying to crawl under there myself. The word crawl hung in the air like a challenge. Maya felt every eye in their section of the cafeteria focused on her table. She could see other students pretending to eat while straining to hear every word of the conversation. Why don't you ask maintenance to help you? Maya suggested, keeping her voice level. I'm sure they have tools for situations like this. Jackson laughed. Maintenance? Come on, Maya. Your dad probably has all the keys anyway. This is practically a family business for you. The comment about her father hit like a physical blow, but Maya had learned to absorb that kind of pain without showing it. She thought about all the evenings she had spent at the gym, practicing how to take hits and keep fighting. This was just a different kind of combat. I'm trying to eat my lunch and finish my homework, Maya said, looking directly at Tyler. Maybe you could ask your friends to help you. Tyler's expression shifted slightly, and Maya recognized the look. He hadn't expected her to decline so directly. In his world, when someone like him asked someone like her for something, compliance was automatic. Her refusal had disrupted his script. You know what? Tyler said, his voice taking on a sharper edge. I think there's been a misunderstanding about how things work around here. This isn't your neighborhood public school where everyone gets participation trophies. At Westfield, we have certain standards. Maya closed her calculus notebook slowly and deliberately. What kind of standards? Well, for starters, when someone asks you for help, especially someone whose family contributes significantly to this institution, the appropriate response is yes, sir. The cafeteria had gone almost completely quiet now. Even the lunch staff behind the serving counter seemed to be paying attention. Maya could feel the weight of dozens of eyes watching this confrontation unfold. I see, Maya said, standing up from her chair. She was surprised to discover that she was almost exactly Tyler's height. Somehow, he had always seemed taller when she was sitting down and trying to be invisible. And what happens if I don't follow these standards? Tyler's confidence flickered for just a moment. He had clearly expected her to either comply immediately or break down in tears. Her calm directness was throwing him off balance. Well, he said, recovering quickly. Let's just say that scholarships are reviewed annually, and the review process takes into account not just academic performance but also cultural fit and ability to uphold the values of the Westfield community. It was a threat, plain and simple. Maya felt anger building in her chest, but she channeled it the way Uncle Roberto had taught her. Anger was fuel, but it had to be directed and controlled, not allowed to burn wildly. "So you want me to crawl under your table to get a phone that doesn't exist," Maya said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear clearly. "And if I refuse, you're going to try to get my scholarship revoked?" Tyler's jaw tightened. When she put it like that, his behavior sounded petty and cruel even to him, but he was too far into this confrontation to back down now, especially with his friends watching and half the cafeteria as an audience. "I want you to understand your place here," Tyler said, his voice dropping to what he probably thought was a menacing whisper. "You're here because we allow you to be here. Your father cleans up after us. Your mother probably works in some service job. You exist in our world by our grace, and a little gratitude would be appropriate." Maya felt something shift inside her, like a switch being flipped. For months she had absorbed comments and slights and casual cruelty because she thought staying invisible was safer. She had convinced herself that education was worth any amount of humiliation, but listening to Tyler reduce her family to their jobs as if their work wasn't valuable, as if they weren't human beings deserving of respect, something inside her rebelled. "You know what I think?" Maya said, her voice still quiet but carrying a new quality that made Tyler take an unconscious step backward. "I think you're scared." Tyler's face flushed red. "Scared of what?" "You're scared that someone like me, someone whose dad mops floors and whose mom works 2 jobs to pay rent, might actually be smarter than you, might work harder than you, might deserve to be here more than you do." The words hit their target. Maya could see it in Tyler's expression, in the way his friend shifted uncomfortably in the sudden silence that fell over their corner of the cafeteria. "You want to talk about cultural fit?" Maya continued, feeling months of suppressed frustration finally finding its voice. "Let's talk about the culture of respect. The culture of treating people with dignity regardless of their background. The culture of earning your place through merit instead of having it handed to you." Tyler's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what it takes to succeed in the real world?" "The real world?" Maya almost laughed. "Tyler, you've never lived in the real world. You've lived in a bubble where your biggest problems are deciding which BMW to drive to school and which private college your parents are going to buy your way into." Several students nearby were now openly watching the confrontation, some even holding up their phones to record. Maya noticed this and felt a moment of panic. The last thing she needed was for this to become some viral video that might actually threaten her scholarship. But Tyler was beyond caring about being recorded. His face was bright red now, and Maya could see the rage building behind his eyes. She had hit too close to home, challenged too many assumptions about his place in the world. "You want to see the real world?" Tyler said, his voice rising. "Here's the real world. Get on your hands and knees and crawl under that table like the dog you are. Show everyone here what you really are underneath all that scholarship student pretense." The demand hung in the air like a physical presence. Maya felt the collective intake of breath from everyone watching. This had crossed a line from cruel teasing into something much darker. Maya looked around the cafeteria at all the faces watching her. Some looked uncomfortable, others excited by the drama. A few seemed genuinely concerned for her. But none of them were going to intervene. None of them were going to stand up to Tyler and his friends. This was her moment, her choice. She thought about her Uncle Roberto's lessons about respect and dignity. She thought about her parents working multiple jobs so she could have this opportunity. She thought about all the evenings at the gym, learning that real strength wasn't about intimidating others, but about standing up for what was right. Maya took a deep breath and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile, Maya's smile was the kind that made Tyler's friends take an unconscious step backward. It wasn't angry or threatening in any obvious way, but there was something in her eyes that suggested he had just made a very serious mistake. "You want me to crawl like a dog?" Maya asked, her voice carrying clearly across the now silent cafeteria. "That's really what you want?" Tyler, committed to his path and unable to read the warning signs, nodded emphatically. "Yeah, that's exactly what I want. Show everyone here what you really are." Maya nodded slowly, as if considering his request seriously. "Okay, but first let me tell you a little story about dogs." She took a step closer to Tyler, and he found himself frozen in place by something in her demeanor that he couldn't quite identify. Around them, students had pulled out their phones, sensing that whatever was about to happen would be worth recording. There's this dog at my uncle's gym, Maya began conversationally. Beautiful German shepherd named Luna. Most of the time she's the sweetest, gentlest animal you've ever seen. Kids pet her, she plays fetch, rolls over for belly rubs. Everyone loves Luna. Tyler's confidence was starting to waver. This wasn't how he had expected Maya to respond. Where were the tears? The pleading? The submission? But Luna has another side, Maya continued, her voice taking on an almost hypnotic quality. See, she's also a trained protection dog. And when someone threatens her family, when someone tries to hurt the people she cares about, Luna transforms into something completely different. Maya's uncle Roberto had taught her about psychological warfare, long before he taught her how to throw a punch. The mind, he always said, was the most important weapon in any fighter's arsenal. Break your opponent's confidence, and the physical confrontation was half over before it began. The thing about protection dogs, Maya said, circling slowly around Tyler while he stood frozen in confusion, is that they give you warnings. Their body language changes. Their posture shifts. They're telling you to back down, to walk away, to choose a different path. Several students in the cafeteria had put down their phones and were watching Maya with a mixture of fascination and growing concern. There was something predatory in the way she moved around Tyler, something that suggested this quiet scholarship student was not quite what she appeared to be. But some people, Maya continued, some people are too arrogant to read the warning signs. They think because Luna is usually gentle, because she's usually submissive, that means she's weak. That means she's safe to push around. Tyler finally found his voice. What? What are you talking about? What does this have to do with anything? Maya stopped directly in front of him, close enough that he could see the gold flecks in her dark brown eyes. I'm trying to explain to you that you've been misreading the situation, Tyler. You see, I'm a lot like Luna. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a small leather folder. From it, she extracted a card and held it up for Tyler and his friends to see. It was her membership card for Rodriguez Family Martial Arts, complete with her photo and rank designation. I've been training in mixed martial arts since I was 8 years old, Maya said calmly. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, wrestling, boxing. I'm currently a brown belt in BJJ and I've won 3 amateur MMA fights. Tyler's face went pale. Around them, the cafeteria was dead silent except for the soft clicking of phone cameras capturing every moment. My next fight is in 3 weeks, Maya continued. I'm training 6 days a week, 2 hours every evening after my dad finishes his shift here. While you've been spending your evenings at country club dinners and private parties, I've been learning how to break people. Jackson, who had been silent up until now, finally spoke up. You're lying. There's no way you're some kind of fighter. Maya turned her attention to him with the same unsettling smile. You want proof? Alex, hold out your hand. She was looking at Ryan, who looked confused. My name's Ryan. Sorry, Maya said without any hint of actual apology. You all kind of blend together. Ryan, hold out your hand. Ryan, caught off guard by the direct command, automatically extended his hand toward Maya. In one fluid motion, she grasped his wrist, applied pressure to a specific point, and guided him down toward the floor. Ryan yelped in surprise as he found himself kneeling with his arm twisted behind his back in a position that was uncomfortable, but not quite painful. This is called a standing kimura, Maya explained casually, as if she were discussing the weather. I'm applying about 15% pressure right now. If I wanted to, I could dislocate your shoulder in about half a second. She released Ryan, who scrambled to his feet, rubbing his wrist and staring at Maya with a mixture of shock and newfound respect. The point is, Maya said, turning back to Tyler, I've been giving you warning signs for months, staying quiet, avoiding confrontation, trying to blend into the background. That wasn't weakness, Tyler. That was restraint. Tyler was beginning to understand that he had seriously misjudged the situation, but his pride wouldn't let him back down completely. So what? You think you can intimidate me with some martial arts nonsense? This isn't some action movie. Maya laughed, and the sound was genuinely amused rather than threatening. Intimidate you? Tyler, I don't need to intimidate you. I've already won. She gestured around the cafeteria, where dozens of students were recording the entire interaction. Look around. Every single person here just watched you demand that a scholarship student crawl like a dog in front of everyone. They watched you threaten my family and my education. And they watched you discover that the quiet girl you thought you could bully is actually a trained fighter. Tyler's eyes darted around the room, finally registering the phones, the staring faces, the recording devices. His face went from pale to green as he realized the implications. "How do you think this is going to look when it hits social media?" Maya asked conversationally. "Rich kid bullies janitor's daughter, gets shocked when she turns out to be an MMA fighter. I'm betting it goes viral within a couple of hours." Maya picked up her backpack and slung it over her shoulder. "But here's the thing, Tyler. I'm not actually interested in destroying your life. Believe it or not, I'm not a vindictive person." She paused, letting him process that information. "I'm going to give you a choice," Maya continued. "You can apologize right now in front of everyone here for your behavior. You can acknowledge that you crossed a line and promise to treat people with more respect going forward. And maybe if you're sincere about it, these videos never make it online." Tyler's jaw worked silently as he struggled with the impossible choice between his pride and his future. Around him, his friends were looking anywhere but at Maya, clearly wanting to distance themselves from whatever decision he made. "Or," Maya said, "you can double down on this behavior. You can keep trying to intimidate me. Keep talking about your family's influence. Keep acting like you own this place. And tomorrow morning, everyone in this school, everyone in this city, and probably half the internet will know exactly what kind of person Tyler Blackwood really is." The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Maya could see Tyler's mind racing, weighing his options, calculating the potential damage to his reputation and his family's business interests. Finally, Tyler spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry." Maya cupped her ear dramatically. "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you speak up? I think the people in the back might have missed it." Tyler's face flushed red again, but this time it was humiliation rather than anger. "I'm sorry," he said louder. "I was out of line. I shouldn't have said those things about you or your family." Maya nodded approvingly. "And?" Tyler looked confused. "And what?" "And you're going to treat people with more respect going forward," Maya prompted. "Right, yes, I'm going to. I'll be more respectful." Maya smiled, and this time it was genuinely warm. "See, that wasn't so hard. Growth is possible for everyone, Tyler. Even rich kids who think the world revolves around them." She started to walk away, then paused and turned back. "Oh, and Tyler? If you're ever curious about martial arts, my uncle's gym is always open to new students. First class is free." The offer was delivered with perfect sincerity, which somehow made it even more devastating than any threat could have been. Tyler stood there, surrounded by his friends and dozens of other students, trying to process how completely the tables had been turned. Maya walked toward the cafeteria exit, her head held high for the first time in months. Behind her, conversation slowly resumed as students began to digest what they had just witnessed. The quiet scholarship girl had just taken down the most powerful bully in school without throwing a single punch. As she reached the doorway, Maya heard someone call her name. She turned to see a group of younger students, probably freshmen, approaching her hesitantly. "Maya," one of them said, That was really cool. We were wondering, could you maybe teach us some of that stuff?" Maya looked at their hopeful faces and felt something warm spread through her chest. Maybe her uncle Roberto was right. Maybe strength wasn't just about being able to defend yourself. Maybe it was about helping others find their own strength too. The video hit social media before Maya even made it to her next class. By the time she sat down in advanced literature, her phone was buzzing with notifications from platforms she didn't even remember. Having accounts on. The footage was crystal clear. Tyler demanding she crawl like a dog, Maya's calm response, and his eventual humiliation had been captured from multiple angles by different students. Maya kept her phone on silent and tried to focus on Mrs. Patterson's discussion of character development in literature. But she could feel the energy in the classroom had completely shifted. Students who had never acknowledged her existence were now stealing glances in her direction. Some looked impressed, others seemed nervous, and a few appeared to be seeing her for the first time. Tyler didn't show up to class. Neither did Jackson or Ryan. Maya wondered if they were in the principal's office or if they had simply decided to go home early. Either way, their absence felt like validation that the confrontation in the cafeteria had been as significant as it felt. When the bell rang, Maya was surprised to find herself surrounded by classmates as she packed up her books. Jessica, a girl who had never spoken to her before, approached hesitantly. "Maya, I just wanted to say that what you did in the cafeteria was incredible, Jessica said. Tyler has been making people miserable here for years, and nobody has ever stood up to him like that. He called my friend Carlos the help last month, added David. Another student Maya recognized but had never talked to. Carlos was too embarrassed to tell anyone, but it really hurt him. What you did today? It felt like justice. Maya felt uncomfortable with the attention, but she appreciated the support. I wasn't trying to be anyone's hero, she said honestly. I just got tired of being treated badly. Well, you became a hero anyway, Jessica said with a smile. My little sister is a freshman here, and she texted me that you already have a fan club in the underclassmen. As Maya walked through the hallways, she noticed the change immediately. Students she had never met were nodding at her respectfully. Younger kids were whispering excitedly when she passed. Even some of the teachers seemed to be looking at her differently, with what appeared to be newfound respect. But not everyone was pleased with the day's events. As Maya approached her locker, she found herself face to face with Victoria Blackwood, Tyler's older sister and the president of the student council. Victoria was a senior, perfectly polished and known for her ability to destroy social careers with surgical precision. Well, Victoria said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. If it isn't our little vigilante. Having a good day, Maya? Maya finished entering her locker combination before responding. It's been interesting. I'm sure it has been. You know, my family has invested a lot in this school. My grandfather endowed the library. My parents funded the new science wing. We care deeply about maintaining Westfield's reputation. Maya pulled her history textbook from her locker and closed the door. That's nice. I'm sure the students appreciate having good facilities. Victoria's smile became sharper. The thing is, Maya, incidents like what happened today can be very damaging to a school's image. Prospective families don't want to send their children somewhere that tolerates violence and aggression. You're right, Maya agreed. Bullying and threats can definitely damage a school's reputation. Students shouldn't have to worry about being humiliated in the cafeteria. Victoria's eyes flashed with anger at having her words turned around. Let me be more direct. My brother may have been inappropriate in his approach today, but your response was completely disproportionate. Physical intimidation has no place in an academic environment. Maya studied Victoria's face, reading the calculation behind her words. Are you threatening me, Victoria? I'm giving you advice. The smart thing to do would be to apologize publicly for your behavior today and make it clear that violence is never acceptable, regardless of provocation. And if I don't? Victoria's mask of politeness dropped entirely. Then you'll discover that there are consequences for embarrassing the wrong family. My parents have connections throughout this city. Your scholarship could disappear. Your father's job could become uncertain. There are many ways to deal with problems, Maya. The threat was delivered with perfect composure, but Maya felt her training kick in. Victoria was trying to intimidate her just like Tyler had, but she was smarter about it. More subtle. More dangerous, I see, Maya said calmly. So the message is that I should apologize for defending myself, or your family will use their wealth and influence to destroy my life and my father's livelihood. Victoria blinked, apparently surprised by Maya's directness. That's not what I said. But it's what you meant. Maya smiled the same unsettling smile that had unnerved Tyler. Victoria, has anyone ever explained to you how social media works? What do you mean? Maya pulled out her phone and showed Victoria the screen. The video from the cafeteria had already been shared thousands of times, with comments pouring in from around the world. Your brother's behavior today has already been seen by hundreds of thousands of people. The story is trending on 3 different platforms. Victoria's face went pale as she read some of the comments. They were overwhelmingly supportive of Maya and harshly critical of Tyler's behavior. Now, Maya continued, imagine what would happen if word got out that his family was trying to retaliate against me and my father for standing up to bullying. Imagine the headlines. Wealthy family destroys scholarship student's life after son's humiliation goes viral. Maya leaned closer to Victoria, lowering her voice. Your family's business interests, your social standing, your brother's college prospects, your own reputation. How do you think they would all fare under that kind of scrutiny? Victoria was quiet for a long moment, clearly recalculating her approach. When she spoke again, her voice had lost its threatening edge. "What do you want?" "I want exactly what I told your brother. Respect. For me, for my family, for all the students here who don't have trust funds and family connections. I want the casual cruelty to stop. And in return?" Maya shrugged. "In return, I continue being the quiet scholarship student who just wants to get good grades and go to college. No more drama, no more confrontations, but only if I'm left alone to do exactly that." Victoria nodded slowly. "I think we understand each other." As Victoria walked away, Maya felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. She had won this round, but she also realized that her life at Westfield was never going to be simple again. The video had changed everything. Her phone buzzed with a text from her Uncle Roberto. "Saw the video? Proud of you, Mia. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Come to the gym tonight. We need to talk." Maya smiled as she read the message. Uncle Roberto had always been her moral compass, helping her understand not just how to fight, but when fighting was necessary and when it wasn't. As she walked toward her final class of the day, Maya noticed something remarkable happening. Students who had been victims of Tyler's crew were standing a little straighter, speaking a little louder. The younger students who had approached her in the cafeteria were walking together in a group, supporting each other in a way she had never seen before. Lisa Chen, a quiet sophomore who had been the target of cruel jokes about her accent, actually raised her hand in class for the first time that Maya could remember. When the teacher called on her, Lisa answered with confidence, her voice clear and strong. After school, as Maya waited for her father to finish his shift, she sat in the library working on homework. She was surprised when Mrs. Patterson approached her table. "Maya, do you have a moment to talk?" Maya closed her textbook and nodded. Mrs. Patterson sat down across from her. "I wanted you to know that several teachers witnessed what happened in the cafeteria today. Officially, the school can't condone any form of physical confrontation, even when it's as restrained as yours was." Maya felt her heart sink. Was she about to lose her scholarship after all? "However," Mrs. Patterson continued, "I also want you to know that many of us have been aware of the bullying problem here for a long time. We've felt powerless to address it because the students involved come from influential families." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "What you did today was brave. You stood up for yourself and for others in a way that was controlled and proportionate. You didn't escalate to violence, but you made it clear that you wouldn't be victimized." Maya wasn't sure how to respond, so she just nodded. "The principal has asked me to set up a meeting with you, our parents, and the guidance counselor to discuss today's events. But I want you to know that several faculty members will be advocating on your behalf. What Tyler did was unacceptable, and your response, while unconventional, was ultimately appropriate." As Mrs. Patterson walked away, Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She wasn't out of the woods yet, but at least some of the adults in the building were on her side. Her father appeared in the library doorway, still wearing his custodial uniform. Maya gathered her things and joined him, and they walked toward the parking lot together. "I heard some students talking about you today," Carlos Rodriguez said as they reached their old Honda. "Something about standing up to bullies?" Maya looked at her father, this man who worked 2 jobs to give her opportunities he had never had, who cleaned these hallways with pride because it meant his daughter could walk them as a student. She thought about Tyler's casual dismissal of her father's work, and she felt angry all over again. "Yeah, Papa, I stood up to some bullies. I think things are going to be different now." Carlos smiled and put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "Good, Mia. It's about time." 3 weeks later, Maya stood in the corner of Rodriguez Family Martial Arts, wrapping her hands with the methodical precision of someone who had performed this ritual hundreds of times. The gym was packed tonight, not just with the usual fighters and training partners, but with an unexpected crowd from Westfield Academy. Jessica and David had been the first to show up, curious about the world that had shaped Maya into someone capable of standing up to Tyler. They had been followed by Lisa Chen, then by a handful of underclassmen who had asked Maya about self-defense classes. Word had spread, and now Uncle Roberto was running introductory sessions 3 nights a week to accommodate all the new interest. "You nervous, Mija?" Uncle Roberto asked as he helped Maya adjust her gloves. Tonight was her 4th amateur MMA fight, and her first since the incident at school had made her something of a local celebrity. "No more than usual," Maya replied honestly. She had learned to channel her pre-fight anxiety into focus. using the meditation techniques Roberto had taught her alongside the physical training. The opponent tonight was tough, a girl from across town with a strong wrestling background and 2 wins of her own. Maya had watched video of her previous fights and knew this would be her most challenging match yet, but she also felt more prepared than ever, not just physically but mentally. The past 3 weeks had been a whirlwind of changes at Westfield. Tyler had returned to school after a 2-day suspension, but he was a different person. The swagger was gone, replaced by something that might have been humility. He hadn't spoken to Maya directly, but she had noticed him intervening when some of his former friends started picking on younger students. It wasn't a complete transformation, but it was progress. Victoria Blackwood had kept her word as well. There had been no retaliation, no mysterious threats to Maya's scholarship or her father's job. Instead, the Blackwood family had quietly donated money for a new anti-bullying program at the school, complete with peer mediation training and anonymous reporting systems. The meeting with the principal had gone better than Maya had dared to hope. Dr. Williams had been surprisingly supportive, acknowledging that the school had failed to address the bullying problem effectively. Rather than punishing Maya, they had asked her to help develop new policies for handling conflicts between students from different socioeconomic backgrounds. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her mother, watching the live stream with the neighbors. "Proud of you, baby. Fight smart." The live stream had been Jessica's idea. She was studying media production and had offered to stream Maya's fight on the school's social media accounts. What had started as a small gesture of support had grown into something much bigger. Hundreds of people from Westfield and beyond were planning to watch. "Rodriguez, you're up in 5 minutes," called the fight coordinator. Maya stood up and began her final warm-up routine, throwing shadow punches and practicing her footwork. Around the gym, she could see familiar faces from school mixed in with the regular fight crowd. Mrs. Patterson had come, along with several other teachers. Even Dr. Williams was there, looking slightly out of place but genuinely interested. But the presence that meant the most to Maya was her father, sitting in the front row wearing a t-shirt that read, "Rodriguez Family Martial Arts" in bold letters. He had taken the evening off from his second job to be here, and Maya could see the pride shining in his eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed through the small arena. "Introducing first, fighting out of Rodriguez Family Martial Arts here in our city, with a record of 3 wins and 0 losses, Maya Rodriguez." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Maya barely heard them. She was in the zone now, focused entirely on the task ahead. As she walked toward the octagon, she caught sight of Tyler Blackwood sitting near the back of the crowd. He raised his hand in what might have been a wave or a salute, and Maya nodded back, acknowledging his presence. Her opponent, Samantha Torres, was already warming up in the opposite corner. She looked strong and confident, exactly what Maya had expected from watching her fight videos. This was going to be a real test. The referee called both fighters to the center of the octagon for final instructions. As Maya touched gloves with Samantha, she felt the familiar calm that came over her before every fight. All the drama of the past few weeks, all the attention and pressure and expectations faded away. In here, it was just 2 athletes testing their skills against each other. The first round was a feeling-out process, with both fighters showing respect for each other's abilities. Samantha's wrestling was as good as advertised, but Maya's defensive skills kept her out of serious trouble. When Samantha shot for a takedown, Maya sprawled perfectly and used her opponent's momentum to spin away. In the second round, Maya began to find her rhythm. Her striking combinations were cleaner, her movement more fluid. She landed a beautiful counter right hand that snapped Samantha's head back and drew cheers from the crowd. But Samantha was tough, recovering quickly and pressuring forward with relentless determination. The third and final round was where Maya's months of extra training showed. While Samantha began to slow down, Maya maintained her pace, picking her shots carefully and avoiding the desperate takedown attempts. With 30 seconds left in the fight, Maya caught Samantha with a perfectly timed knee as she shot for another takedown, ending the fight with her most impressive victory yet. As the referee raised Maya's hand in victory, the crowd at Rodriguez Family Martial Arts went wild. She could see her father jumping up and down, Uncle Roberto beaming with pride, and dozens of her classmates cheering as loudly as any of the regular fight fans. But what struck Maya most was the diversity of the crowd. Students from different social circles at Westfield were sitting together, united in their support for her. The artificial barriers that had seemed so permanent in the school cafeteria had dissolved in the face of genuine achievement and mutual respect. After the post-fight interviews and medical checks, Maya found herself surrounded by well-wishers. Jessica was already editing highlights for social media, while David was asking Uncle Roberto about signing up for regular training. Lisa Chen approached shyly, still glowing from the confidence boost that came from watching someone she knew succeed at the highest level. "Maya," Lisa said, "I wanted to thank you, not just for tonight, but for what you did at school. I've never felt safe there before, but things are different now." Before Maya could respond, she noticed Tyler approaching through the crowd. He looked nervous but determined, and when he reached her, he extended his hand. "Congratulations," he said simply. "That was incredible to watch." Maya shook his hand, noting the genuine respect in his voice. "Thanks for coming, Tyler. It means something that you're here." "I wanted to apologize again," Tyler said, his voice barely audible over the celebrating crowd. "Not just for what happened in the cafeteria, but for everything before that. The way I treated you, the way I treated other people. It was wrong." Maya studied his face and saw something she had never seen there before. Humility. Real humility. Not the performance he had put on immediately after their confrontation. "People can change, Tyler," Maya said. "The question is whether you really want to." Tyler nodded. "I do, and I was wondering, would your uncle really let me train here? I know I don't deserve it after everything, but I think I need to learn some things that can't be taught in a classroom." Maya looked over at Uncle Roberto, who had been listening to the conversation. He approached them with a knowing smile. "First class is always free," Roberto said, extending his hand to Tyler. "But if you want to train here, you need to understand something. In this gym, we judge people by their character and their effort, not by their bank accounts. Can you handle that?" Tyler shook Roberto's hand firmly. "Yes, sir. I think that's exactly what I need to learn." As the crowd began to thin out and the gym slowly returned to normal, Maya found herself sitting on the edge of the octagon, still wearing her victory medal. Her father approached and sat down beside her. "So, Mija, how does it feel to be a champion?" Maya smiled, looking around at the gym that had shaped her into the person she was today. "It feels good, Papa, but you know what feels even better?" "What's that?" "Knowing that this is just the beginning. The fight tonight, the situation at school, standing up to those bullies, it's all connected. Uncle Roberto always taught me that martial arts isn't really about fighting. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to fight because people respect you too much to test you." Carlos Rodriguez put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "Your uncle is a wise man, and you're becoming a wise woman." Maya leaned against her father and watched as Tyler helped Uncle Roberto put away equipment, following instructions carefully and asking questions about proper technique. Across the gym, Jessica was interviewing some of the other students about their experience watching the fight, building content for a documentary she was planning about the intersection of sports and social change. In 3 months, Maya would graduate from Westfield Academy with a full scholarship to the university of her choice. She would continue fighting, continue training, and continue growing as both an athlete and a person. But more importantly, she would carry with her the knowledge that real strength came not from the ability to dominate others, but from the courage to stand up for what was right. The girl who had once tried to be invisible had become impossible to ignore, not through violence or aggression, but through the quiet confidence that came from knowing exactly who she was and what she stood for. And in teaching that lesson to Tyler and others like him, she had discovered something even more powerful than any fighting: technique, the ability to transform enemies into allies through the simple act of treating everyone with the respect they deserved. As Maya finally stood up to leave the gym, she caught sight of a banner hanging near the entrance that Uncle Roberto had put up years ago. "Respect is earned through character, not given through fear." Tonight, she had earned more respect than she had ever thought possible, and she had done it the right way. The invisible girl was invisible no more, and the world was better for it.